Then you stigmatize the community. And you stigmatize the community in such a way that the community is so busy fighting stigma that they cannot concentrate on prosecuting the guilty. So they stigmatize the Sikh community. We are separatists. We are terrorists. They stigmatize the Manipuris, who for 50 years have suffered under the Armed Forces Special Powers Act. 50 years of rape and murder and killing. I'm doing this case of Manorama, who was raped, young lady, 23 years old. Raped and murdered, shot in the back. I'm doing that case in the High Court. We have won the case, now it's come to the Supreme Court. And you'll remember the Manipuri protests where the Manipuri women took off their clothes and protested in front of the fort called the Kangla Fort, saying, Indian army rape us. You can imagine how bitter they felt for Indian women to take off their clothes and say, here I am, rape us. So the Manipuris, they were stigmatized as being underground agents. First you brutalize them, beat them, kill them, torture them, rape them, and then you say they are underground agents. People in Kashmir, they will say you are insurgents. After doing so much violence to them for so many years, you will stigmatize them. People in Chhattisgarh, Vinayak Sen's case, you remember, you must have read in the papers, one of the world's best pediatricians, working in the remote parts of Chhattisgarh, in Dantewada district, working with tribals on malnutrition. Many films, many lectures, many articles given by him on malnutrition of tribal children. The foremost expert in the country. That you are aiding terrorism. You are waging war against the state. You are guilty of sedition. And why? Because it is said he took a letter from a person in jail whom he was treating. He took a letter and gave it to some underground person. Some innocuous letter, but he took it and he gave it to some. He denies the charge. He says, I never taken this letter. The police superintendent says whenever he came to jail, he was surrounded by police. We never allowed him to even exchange anything, let alone take a letter. I have never seen any letter being taken by him. He spent 3 years in jail. Case is going on. Supreme Court said when the matter came up for bail, what is wrong? What has he done wrong? No, sir, he's an Naxal sympathizer. He's an Naxal sympathizer, stigma. Supreme Court said, so what? So what? Is it a crime? Does the penal code make it a punishable offense if you're a Naxal sympathizer? And that, my dear friends, is the aspect of stigma. All of us, all human rights activists, when we go on any television program, the first thing they will say, Mr. Gonsalves, you are the overground face of the underground. You are the front of the insurgents. Why? Because I do constitutional law cases, I do bail applications, I do public interest cases. And in one argument with Mr. Jetli told me all you human rights activists are the overground face of the underground. I said, Mr. Jetli, maybe, let us suppose you are correct. Are you not the overground face of the underground, the VHP, the Vishwa Hindu Parishad, the Bajrang Dal, the RSS? Are you not the overground face of the underground? And so to conclude, it's the stigma, which is the insult to injury. The stigma that we suffer. Because outside communities look at us and say, these people are up to some mischief. And this is what the government of India is very good at. Killing in the first instance and stigmatizing in the second. I want to say a few words about India. I don't want to say too much about India because I'm sure that most of you travel to India very often. You have friends and relatives there. But I want to say a few words about India as I see it. We are very happy when India does well. None of us, I'm sure, sitting in this audience today is anti-national. We are all proud nationalists. We are proud of our country. We are proud of the position it has in the world. We are proud of the role the Sikh community has played in India to make it a great economic and moral power. We know of our contribution in Canadian society to make Canada a very powerful nation. We want to see India grow, and we are happy to see India position itself in the world as a world power. We heard about the 8% GDP, and we know the wealth that India has. The properties that people own, the cars that they drive, the travel that they do. Our standard of living has gone up enormously. But that, my dear friends, is just one part of one India. The India of 350, 400 million people. Because India today is divided into two parts. The India of the rich and the India of the poor. There was a time, once upon a time, after independence, when we wanted to do nation building, to make our nation great. And by making our nation great, we understood that it meant taking everybody along. Everybody, rich and poor, strong and weak, this caste, this religion, that religion, whatever color you may have, from wherever you may come in the land, in this great land of India, we must take all of you together ahead. And therefore education for all, health services for all, food for all, housing for all, transportation for all, basic services for all India, a unified India, a strong and unified and democratic India. That was the vision of nation building after independence. But today, I would say for the last 20 years, we have a very different notion of making India great. We have an 8% growth rate and immense wealth for 350 million people. But you cannot imagine, even we who are from India, we cannot imagine the appalling conditions under which 750 million people live today in India. The union government appointed Arjun Sen to make a report on poverty. And he made a report in 2010. And he found 77% of the Indian population living on less than 20 rupees a day at 2004-2005 prices, which is 30 rupees a day today. 800 million people living on less than $1 a day, half $1 a day, let's say. The National Family Health Survey results are now out. 50% of all men, women and children are malnourished. 17% of all children are so malnourished, so severely malnourished, that their bodies are stunted and their brains are shrunken. A whole generation of Indians who will grow to adulthood disabled. And in the Punjab, a month ago, when we were doing this case on the right to food, it was found that there was grain being stored out of the godowns because there was no place in the godowns for food. And the rats were eating the grain. The television cameras were photographing the rats eating the grain. And then when we asked the court, I said, Your Lordship, please ask the central government. We have 60 million tons of grain in the godowns. 60 million tons. 50%, half your population is going to bed hungry every day. Give them the grain free. Please ask them to explain why they don't want to give the grain free to these people. And the central government answer was no. We will not do anything. We will not give you the grain free. Let the grain rot. And now the rains will come, the monsoons will come and the grain will rot again. But we will not give it to people. This is the situation on the hunger front. Globalization has been interpreted by the central government in a very funny way. I can sum it up in 3 words. Subsidies are bad. If the poor want anything, they must pay for it. If they want education, they must pay. Not the duty of the government to pay for education for poor people. If they want medicines, they must pay. If they want food, they must pay. If they want housing, they must pay. But tell me, the poverty line in India today is something for the Punjab, it is 15 rupees a day. Montek Singh Ahluwalia and the Planning Commission have defined poverty line as 15 rupees a day, one-third of $1. And the Planning Commission says that there are only 40% below 15 rupees a day. Arjun Sen said 77% at 20 rupees. Montek said, no, it's not 70%, it is 40%. And then when you ask him, Mr. Ahluwalia, what is the poverty line? He'll say, for the Punjab, it is 15 rupees a day. So if you earn 16 rupees a day in the Punjab, you are not poverty line, you are not poor, and you do not get a below poverty line card. This is the reality of modern India. This is the farce of modern India. It is a crime. You kill a person, you go to jail. But the Planning Commission and the central government can, by design,